On this topic now. The Kremlin has said that Russian President Vladimir Putin and US President Donald Trump discussed the idea of raising the level of representatives at Ukraine talks in a 40-minute call following the US leaders' meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. This comes after Trump held a meeting in Washington with Zelensky and other European partners. The US president said it was very good and that he had begun arrangements for a meeting between President Putin and President Zelensky after a subsequent call with President Putin. Reportedly, Ushakov in his remarks did not specify what he meant by raising the level at meetings, and did not directly address the possibility of a trilateral meeting between the leaders. Now we go back to our guest discussion with Gleb Borkov. Thank you, Gleb, for staying with us. Well, we can only speculate here, but what do you think could this mean, raising the level of representatives? And what do you think was the motive behind raising the level of representatives in the upcoming talks?
Well, if you look at it, let's say from a superficial view, from the view that is presented in the media and that is, becoming available to the public, one can assume that maybe Mr. Trump does not want to, take on the whole responsibility for agreeing a deal with Mr. Putin himself. He wants to share the responsibility. He wants for this, agreement to be like a multilateral, so that all parties who have a vested interest in this conflict, so that they all sign up to this agreement with the view of preventing any future conflicts. So this is what I would say superficial view. A more profound view could be that maybe Trump's administration has finally agreed with the, with the other force, whoever it's represented by, and whoever is basically running the European affairs, to actually finally get involved and sit, jointly at the table. Who these people are, it's difficult to say. So I think it would be interesting to observe who actually attends those meetings. But potentially and hopefully it looks to me that maybe Trump's administration have finally convinced this other power group to actually sit down and negotiate.
And I'm
not talking about Russia. I'm talking about the the power coalition which controls European affairs.
And Gleb, now looking at the broader picture, with Ukraine and Russia both energy infrastructure severely impacted by recent attacks from both sides, how critical is it to include robust security guarantees in any future peace talks? What do you think?
It is very critical to include, peace and security guarantees for both sides, because one thing that we do need to avoid as a humanity is, it's a larger conflict reminiscent of a Third World War, which can involve and will certainly involve, the use of nuclear arms. So this is something that needs to be avoided at all costs. Unfortunately, by the looks of it, the power coalition behind Europe is actually quite willing to do right the opposite. Okay, they are actually looking to prepare potential ground for future conflict. For whatever reasons. I mean, we probably would never understand them. So it is extremely critical to for the parties to reach an agreement which guarantees stability of the European continent, for another, 30, 40, 50, 60 years to come, so that we're not faced with another major conflict in the century.
Yes, thank you very much, Gleb, for sharing that. Please stay with us as we stay on this topic. Now, French President Emmanuel Macron has suggested